Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to give an overview of the Schlage E-Series grip handle locks that were available many years ago. And the purpose of this video is to really talk about what to do when you have one of these and it's time to replace it for whatever reason, and we'll go through those possible reasons. But what started this the thought of making this video to help others about what is the Schlage E-Series and what to do was is because a client reached out and said, hey, I need to replace this lock. And that email came in the year 2018, and it made me remember back to the year 1995 and remembering all of the help I tried to give to clients and others to work them through what to do when they needed to replace the lock. Here's an overview. The Schlage E-Series, or EB series, you can do a Schlage E-Series, which would have been the grip handle only. Okay, it would have been the lower grip handle that would have given you a thumb piece sort of control. What made that lock unique for Schlage at that time was the fact that it would be a multi-function lock in the sense that it could be two functions, and it's therefore called an E51. The functions were that you had a thumb piece which was rigid, locked, closed. You can't open it. You put the key in, retract the latch, go in the house, close the door behind you, you're still locked. You also had the opportunity for a button on the inside that you could literally turn and retract, and now the exterior thumb piece is always unlocked. Now it's going to act as a passage, and the actual function is of an E51. Entrance doors for residential. I'm reading it from the catalog, and by the way, there are two links below this video, one to a scan, a 3-page scan out of a 1982 catalog from Schlage. I have many Schlage catalogs that span the decades. This is the first one I found that I knew would have an E-Series. Because the E-Series, we know was discontinued in about 1992, maybe 93. I think the factory is going with 1992. And approximately came on the market in 1955. So had an incredible long run of availability. I'm actually surprised I don't bump into it more than I do, given the fact that it was on the market for almost 4 decades, according to Schlage. And looking at the trims that are available, mid-1950s does not surprise me at all, given the designs that you see, meaning that they are kind of period correct for that era. I had guessed that it come on the market in the early 1960s, but Schlage told me approximately 1955, and the person from Schlage who told me that is an exceptionally expert level person when it comes to certainly responsiveness, but technical support as well. So the E51 description: entrance doors for residential, apartment, or commercial applications by key from outside when thumb piece is locked by inside knob turn button. For door push-pull operation, latch bolt can also be held in the retracted position by depressing the thumb piece and turning the button to horizontal position. Okay, I can't really attest to it being held back in a retracted position, but you could certainly set it into a passage function. My experience specifically with Schlage E-Series locks is from 1990 until they discontinued it. So I only had, well, 1990 until I could no longer get my hands on any of them, which would have been, yeah, about when they discontinued it. And we had sold all that material, and none of it was available again. So an E-Series lock would give you a thumb piece that you can lock or unlock. Now what's nice about that is you don't leave the house and forget to lock your door. An EB series lock is the same lower grip handle functionality, but is then going to give you a deadbolt above. Okay, the 1982 product catalog I have does not have a B function, an EB function that obviously came after, but nonetheless, an EB function just would have added, don't quote me, but I'm all but positive added the 400 series deadbolt above it. Okay, they're high quality deadbolt that took an 1.5-inch hole, grade 1 lock set. And I was just at a conference or a training session with a locksmithing training session, and the head instructor basically has a direct relationship with product development for Schlage, and he tells them, would you quit changing your products, meaning stop discontinuing this good stuff, quit developing it, it's good just the way it is. And that's how I feel or felt about the E series, and certainly the 400 series, because that combination of those two locks was just superb, not only in the functionality, which I'm going to get to in a moment, but the quality. The brass-based material, the high-quality workmanship, the quality of the latch bolt of the slam lock, which is the same latch bolt that's used in their B250 series, which is a slam-style gate lock, but that B400 series as well. Okay, now we've talked about the lock, etc. You can look in that catalog to see at least the snapshot of what that series looked like in 1982. And you might say, yes, gosh, I've got that Plymouth design or the Parthenon. The common ones were, well, I personally have sold the Plymouth. That's most common. Parthenon, and the finish kind of dictated the design. If you were doing polished brass, very likely it's going to be a Plymouth. If you were doing antique brass, that's going to be a Parthenon. The Bowman would be a polished brass. The Murchison, which we sold, I'd see that in polished chrome very often. Those were kind of the situations I've seen. Now, the Castile, I've only seen one of those that we had sold, and that's just regal. That's just a great-looking lock. Waverly, I don't recall. Weymouth, I've never seen before in my life. The Sussex, I've never seen in terms of a distribution perspective. So that's the E-Series lock. So why are you looking at this video? Well, to know what the heck do I do with this E-Series lock that I have. So the email a client sent to me in 2018 is like, I need to replace this lock. And I see the photographs that the client sent, and you know, all those happy memories come back. This is a Schlage EB series lock that you have. The client's like, just give me a new one. Well, here's the problem with just give me a new one. The second link below this video is to the templates for the E-Series locks that were there. What you're going to notice immediately is that really unusual lock prep required with that 4.25-inch long slotted hole that's required on the exterior. The problem with that is there aren't really any locks that are going to just fit over those holes, and if there are, you're going to need to confirm that the templating you have of what you're going to put over it's going to fit over the existing prep, because for sure you have that elongated hole underneath your grip set. So the first problem is with just give me a new one is, well, they don't exist. There are some available in the online auction websites of the world, but they are outrageously expensive. Back in 1990, these would have sold for $300, $350, and I've seen them online rebuilt for orders of magnitude more expensive than that. And that's, I understand they appear to be rebuilt and completely refurbished, but I cannot fathom how they get to being that expensive with the amount of labor put into it. You know, I can buy a vintage 1965 reel-to-reel player thoroughly refurbished for a lot less than this lock. Regardless, I have seen those, and they're really expensive, at least at this time. So a replacement is generally not practical because you can't get your hands on them, and when you do find one available, the person is asking for an astronomical amount of money. Can't get it. Number two, if you find a replacement, is it going to fit over the existing prep or preparations? If you have an E-Series lock, that's probably not going to be so difficult because you can very likely replace it. If you have an EB Series lock, well, now you've got a deadbolt way up above. That maybe you can leave that and then put the new lock below it. Now you've got a lock that's decades old and a new lock that may or may not fit. So that's the other problem. The real issue is getting the new functionality out of the new lock, because the new grip handles that they make, they're not double option, meaning when you have no cylinder above the thumb piece. All that thumb piece is a fancy passage set. The only security on the door is the deadbolt up above. So now you're faced with living years or decades with a grip handle that every time you leave and pull your door closed, it's locked. You're trained. You know that's how it works. I was trained that way, meaning that's the house I grew up in. So I knew every time I left the door, that door was locked, unless someone went out of the way to unlock it. But whoever did that? Well, you might in the winter when you're bringing in groceries for your parents and your dad wants the door closed behind you every time you make the 50-foot walk back to the car. You'd unlock it in that point, but it would always be relocked. So the new replacements are nothing but a fancy passage and then a deadbolt above. It has to have a deadbolt because otherwise there'd be no security. Whereas in the old days, you could have just an E-Series lock without a deadbolt, which you very likely could. Multi-family house, 3-story condo building, you don't have a deadbolt. You've got that E-Series grip that can always be left lock and then an electric strike. That can work. But now you've got to add the deadbolt. To mimic that same functionality, you have no choice that I'm aware of but to go to a mortise lock. So what does that require? Lots of money. Not only in the hardware, to mimic the design of what you're replacing by your Baldwins, your MTECs, your Omnias. Baldwin would be my favorite for decorative. Schlage, and I say Baldwin because Schlage does not have a mortise lock that will give you the traditional grip handle, at least they don't right now, that I'm aware of, that will mimic that E-Series. But Baldwin, that's what they do, in my opinion, best. So now to get that functionality where you can pull the door closed and leave it locked, you've got to go to a mortise lock. Well, you can get trim on both sides of the door. That's for sure going to cover the holes of an E-lock. If you've got an EB, you're going to have to get those templates and get the overall length of the trim, like a Versailles from the Versailles trim from Baldwin. I'm pretty sure is going to cover that because that trim's pushing 20-inch long. But you're going to have to check out the dimensional properties of both sides of the door to make sure you're going to cover all the holes. And then you're going to have to prep the mortise lock cavity. There's a machine that you crank with a handle that will create that mortise pocket. Create that preparation, re-prep the frame for the new strike. So the problem is simply stated as, if you have a Schlage E or EB series lock and you want to replace it, that's not an easy endeavor. And in fact, many times you're stuck with replacing the door as well as a possibility, and that's certainly not an option. If you've got a door that's that old to have a Schlage E-Series lock on it, you probably don't want to replace it as an option. I would very much, and my suggestion to the client was, see if you can have it repaired. The problem with repair is there are a lot of people that call themselves locksmiths in the world, and that's okay. But like anything else in life, like attorneys or CPAs or truck drivers, you have different calibers of people that title themselves. You will want to seek out the most qualified of locksmiths to work on this old material because if they damage it unintentionally or their inexperience leads them down a path that they can't get out of, you're then put in a position where you're back to the quandary that I just outlined for you. And indeed, this client who emailed me had 2 locksmiths work on it, and one of them made it worse. And there's no replacement parts. You might luckily find someone that has some stuff. Today, at this moment, I don't have any E-Series locks on the shelf, and I don't expect that I'll ever have any. That's the problem with Schlage E-Series locks. However, if it works, don't change it. Keep working it. Take care of it. Don't abuse it so that it continues to give you decades of faithful service. If you have any questions on the Schlage E-Series lock or any other Schlage product, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. Thank you.